There's a bank that doesn't answer to any government on earth, not the United States, not the UN, not even the country it sits in. It's called the Bank for International Settlements. It was built on paper to clean up one financial disaster. It's since survived a world war, a vote to kill it, and 95 years of almost never being touched.
People call it the central bank of central banks. 63 of the most powerful monetary authorities on earth are its members, including the Federal Reserve. It sits in Basel, Switzerland, and it quietly helps set the rules that decide how much money every major bank in the world is allowed to lend.
Nobody voted for it, nobody can vote it out, and that's exactly the point.
Rewind to 1930. Germany is drowning in reparations debt from World War I, payments so large under the Treaty of Versailles the numbers barely made sense. So the world's powers came up with the Young Plan, spread the debt out, and create a new institution to collect and manage it. That institution was the Bank for International Settlements.
It opened its doors in Basel on May 17, 1930, and almost immediately, it became something bigger than a debt collector. It became the first place where the world's central banks could sit in the same room, off the record, and coordinate.
To make that coordination possible, the countries that created it gave it something extraordinary: legal immunity, its own headquarters agreement with Switzerland, its own police authority over its own building, diplomatic-style protection for a bank. The founding shareholders read like a list of the world's financial power at the time: the central banks of Belgium, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the UK, plus a private American banking consortium standing in for the US. For the first time, they had a permanent private room to coordinate policy outside any single government's direct reach.
Nobody thought that would ever be a problem. Then the 1930s happened. By 1939, Europe is at war. The BIS calls itself neutral. It keeps its doors open in Basel, a country famous for exactly one thing: keeping secrets.
Its president through the war is an American banker named Thomas McKittrick, and McKittrick is living two lives at once. Publicly, he's running a bank that does business with Nazi Germany's central bank, the Reichsbank, whose vice president sits on BIS's own board of directors.
Privately, McKittrick is a source for American intelligence. Codename 644. He's feeding information to Allen Dulles, while the bank he runs keeps accepting Nazi gold.
Post-war investigators traced it. Between 1939 and 1945, roughly 13.5 tons of gold moved from the Reichsbank into BIS accounts. At least 3.7 tons of it was confirmed looted, stripped from the central banks of Belgium and the Netherlands as the Nazis rolled through.
When the war ends, the world finds out. And at the 1944 Bretton Woods Conference, the same meeting that created the IMF and the World Bank, Norway stands up and accuses the BIS of war crimes.
Norway's delegation puts forward a resolution: dissolve the Bank for International Settlements immediately. The United States backs it, so does the Soviet Union. It's called Resolution 5. For a moment, this bank is one vote away from being erased.
Britain fights back. John Maynard Keynes leads the opposition, alongside a Chase Bank representative named Dean Acheson. The resolution passes on paper. The bank is never actually shut down.
And the man who ran it through the Nazi years? Thomas McKittrick walks away. No prosecution, no real reckoning.
The Reichsbank vice president, who sat on BIS's own board, Emil Poole, didn't walk away quite as clean. He was tried at Nuremberg and convicted of war crimes. He'd testified himself that gold teeth, taken from concentration camp victims, had been deposited at the Reichsbank.
He was sentenced to 5 years. He served less than one, released in December of 1949 for, quote, good conduct.
The gold itself took even longer to sort out. A commission was set up after the war just to trace and return what had been stolen. It didn't officially close the books until 1998, more than 50 years later. And even then, claimant countries only recovered about 65% of what they'd lost.
It should have ended in 1944. It didn't. And what this bank has done with the 80 years since is arguably the more important story. Fast forward to 2010. A hedge fund called NML Capital is chasing Argentina for unpaid debt and finds out Argentina has assets sitting inside the BIS. So it tries to seize them through the Swiss courts.
Switzerland's own federal Supreme Court shuts it down. Their ruling, the Bank for International Settlements has immunity from enforcement. Not because it did anything wrong, because of a piece of paper signed in 1987 giving it protection almost nobody else on Swiss soil has.
That's not a theory, that's a real court case, with a real ruling, confirming that even a legitimate creditor can't touch what's inside this building.
And it isn't just protecting money anymore. Since the 1970s, it's been writing the rulebook, the Basel Committee, housed at the BIS, run by unelected central bankers from the world's 10 richest economies, decides how much capital every major bank on earth has to hold to stay solvent.
Nobody elected them to do that. There was never a global vote. Banks in every country you've ever lived in follow rules written in a building in Switzerland that answers to no single government.
And even that system is starting to crack. 15 years into the current rulebook, the US, the UK, and the EU can't agree on how to apply it. Regulators are watching the same set of global rules split into 3 different versions, which means the universal safety net this bank was supposed to guarantee isn't universal anymore. And the accountability question isn't going away. In January of 2026, the governor of the Bank of England, a sitting central banker, publicly said institutions like this need to be, quote, more accountable and get their own internal governance in order.
That's not an outsider making an accusation. That's someone inside the system saying it out loud.
Right now, this same institution is the one warning the rest of us about risk. In March of 2026, it flagged that AI companies are taking on enormous hidden debt to build data centers, debt that barely shows up on anyone's balance sheet. It's also warned that stablecoins threaten what it calls monetary sovereignty.
Which raises the obvious question. An institution this opaque, warning everyone else about opacity.
To be clear, nobody has ever proven the BIS is hiding anything today. There's no public evidence of that, and we're not saying it's happening. But look at what we do know is real. Its own police force, legal immunity a Swiss court has upheld, a documented history of moving looted gold in total secrecy during its darkest chapter. If an institution with that structure ever wanted to move money quietly and keep it off anyone's books, there's very little standing in the way.
That's not an accusation. It's just what the structure allows. And structures like that don't happen by accident.
95 years ago, this bank was created to clean up one catastrophe. It's outlived the war that almost destroyed it, survived a vote to kill it, and it's still standing, still setting rules nobody voted on, still protected by laws almost nobody else gets. If you want the stories other channels won't dig into, subscribe to Feuds.
We'll see you in the next one.